Hello and welcome to Across Africa, our weekly show bringing you reports from across the continent. Coming up, UN issues a warning over the humanitarian situation in parts of northern Nigeria recently freed from Boko Haram militants. It says thousands of children are at risk of starvation. Elsewhere, a court in South Africa sentences Blade Runner sprinter Oscar Pistorius to 6 years behind bars for the murder of girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp. We report from South Sudan, where the peace process is back in doubt after another outbreak of deadly violence. We'll start with the United Nations sounding the alarm bell over a potentially catastrophic humanitarian situation in Nigeria's Borno state. It says some 50,000 children under the age of 5 could starve to death in the region, which borders on Lake Chad. This is the military campaign against jihadist group Boko Haram continues, allowing aid agencies into places once occupied by the Islamists.
This is Halima. She's just 1, but weighs not much more than a newborn. Her mother, Yagana, brought her to Maiduguri from their home near Mafa, 50 kilometers away, to flee possible Boko Haram attacks. But she says there was another threat in her village: not enough food. Halima's been treated at this UNICEF-run nutrition clinic. It's helped her put on some weight, but she's still severely malnourished, and she's not the only one.
Every day we are getting 7 or sometimes even 10, sometimes even more than 10. We are getting them. But for now, children that with severe acute malnutrition that we admitted them, we have 363.
Northeast Nigeria has been torn apart by Boko Haram in the last 7 years. At least 20,000 people have been killed and more than 2.6 million made homeless. The military's flushing out Boko Haram from captured territory. Aid agencies are now warning of the threat of malnutrition and appealing for help.
We are not looking to know who is accountable or who is not, but to try as much as possible to make sure that any child that is malnourished is treated. NGOs and the government are doing so much, but it's not enough. There is still room for improvement, and the situation is evolving fast.
There's nearly 16,000 people at the Muna informal settlement on the outskirts of Maiduguri. Sanitation's poor, medicine and food are in short supply. Food supplements are now being given to most of the children to prevent the situation worsening.
They have nothing in hand for them to eat. They left everything behind, and then they just brought their life. So if in shortest period of time, if the supply of food is not been done, there will be a lot of complications, I fear.
With homes destroyed and farmlands devastated, more people arrive in places like Muna every day. They've nowhere else to go.
Meanwhile, in South Africa, Olympic athlete Oscar Pistorius has been sentenced to 6 years in jail for the murder of girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp. 29-year-old admitted shooting her through a toilet door in 2013, but always maintained he'd mistaken her for an intruder. The murder verdict came in December after Pistorius was initially found guilty of manslaughter.
More than 3 years after murdering his girlfriend, Oscar Pistorius finally knows his fate.
In the result, the sentence that I imposed on the accused for the murder dolus eventualis of the deceased, that is Reeva Steenkamp, is 6 years imprisonment.
In her ruling, Judge Masipa said public opinion against Pistorius could play no role in the decision of the court. During a dramatic pre-sentencing hearing, the double amputee's lawyers asked him to walk around the courtroom without his prosthetic legs, a plea for leniency from the judge.
The accused has punished himself and will punish himself for the rest of his life far more than any court of law can punish him.
Pistorius shot Reeva Steenkamp 4 times through a locked door at his home in the early hours of Valentine's Day 2013. He said he thought she was a burglar. The prosecution's star witness was Reeva's father.
My lady, it's been very difficult for me to forgive. But I feel the same, that Oscar has to pay for what he did. He has to pay for it.
After the sentencing, the Steenkamp family offered no comment on whether the state should appeal.
The family has said it before. They wanted the law to run its course. It's done so. And no further comment. I will keep a dignified silence.
Pistorius could be paroled in as little as 3 years. His defense team says he will not appeal the sentence. After being transferred to house arrest in October last year, Oscar Pistorius, the first amputee sprinter to ever compete in the Olympics, once again finds himself behind bars.
Well, to South Sudan next, and renewed violence which has thrown the recent peace deal into doubt. Dozens of people died last week in clashes in the town of Wau. The bloodshed has thrown the spotlight onto the capacity of the transitional government, led by President Salva Kiir and former rebel leader Riek Machar, to turn the page on years of violence. This from our correspondent, Simona Fulton.
Another grave is dug at this improvised cemetery near the Catholic Cathedral in Wau. 13 people have been buried here alone, but many more are believed to have died in last week's violence. The youngest victim was only 2.5 years old. The boy's mother says her son was killed when soldiers of the SPLA, the National Army, looted her house.
The soldiers told me to open the door to the house. Before I could do that, they fired at the lock and opened it. The bullet hit my child and our neighbor's wife. My son was covered in blood. I started washing my child's body and he was crying for half an hour before he took his last breath.
People here accuse civilians and soldiers from the Dinka ethnic group of systematically targeting members of the Fartit tribes. Over 30,000 Fartit are now seeking shelter in churches and near the United Nations base. They no longer trust the South Sudan army to protect them. The violence is perceived as being part of a government-backed campaign to increase Dinka control over land, resources and political power.
Most of the people who live there, they are non-Dinkas. And so those people came and attacked them, looting their properties, and anybody who resists is killed. And that's why people are even wondering if the soldiers of SPLA were protecting people, why not to prevent these people or send them back?
Even though the Fartit are the majority tribe in the area, most soldiers based here are Dinka. Their commander denies his troops killed any civilians. He instead blames opposition forces loyal to recently reinstated Vice President Riek Machar.
What sparked the violence was multiple factors. One factor is the rebel intrusion and attack.
This part of Wau, home to members of the Fartit ethnic group, has been left completely deserted after last week's violence forced people from their homes. Although the details of this latest attack are yet to be established, one thing is certain. The peace deal signed almost a year ago is not holding up.
Finally to Senegal, where authorities have begun an operation to clear up to 30,000 street children from the Dakar region. Government says they'll be relocated to special welcome centres, but that hasn't stopped NGOs expressing their concern. This from our correspondent, Sarah Sacco.
These children are being removed from the streets of the capital by force. Broadcast on national television, the images shocked viewers across the country. Other media are forbidden to film the authorities in action, but the procedure is ongoing. On Monday, children and their mothers removed from the street were bused to this centre. Around 150 children have already been received.
We settle them in first before asking them why they are in the street. After our investigation, we proceed with a so-called family mediation or family returns, because the centre is a place of transit only.
All children found on the street will be removed, accompanied or not. The main targets are talibé, students from Quranic schools sent out to beg by their teachers. Strongly criticised for their leniency towards those who exploit children, the authorities are putting their foot down.
When we pick up the children and the parents come, we educate them on the need to better support children and not leave them on the streets. If there's a recurring case, we'll refer to the law, and the law stipulates a fine from 700 to 3,000 euros and a jail sentence of 2 to 5 years.
Benefits for families have also been announced. Ndé, who has 11 children, says she has no alternative to begging.
Before I came here on the bus, I asked them to explain what I can do. I asked if I could continue to beg to feed my children, at least until the rains come. Then I'll harvest my crop of millet.
Child welfare advocates have already expressed they fear the hype around the announcement will turn into a baseless promise. The authorities have assured the operation will continue.
And that's it for this edition of Across Africa. Thanks for watching and do stay with us here on France 24.